Good afternoon, children and grandchildren. Today, Grandpa Poe is going to show you a new toolbox, all full of tools and things that are of interest. Let's see what's inside. Oh, isn't that nice? This is a special toolbox. Let's take a look at our first item. Mallet. This is used for hammering things. And this is a big one. This is for kind of big items. Grandpa Poe used this just a few days ago because he had some little wooden stakes that he needed to put into his yard to mark some things so that we didn't run over them with the lawnmower. So Grandpa Poe used this to pound them into the ground like this. Now, you might be able to use this just to drive a nail into the wall. It's a little big for that, but you could. This is a rubber mallet, which is a little different than a hammer or a steel mallet. But it could be used for both purposes, but you would have to use a little care. This is a cutter. And look at how it folds up. Look at that. So that it's easier to put in your pocket. Grandpa Poe used this just a few days back because he needed to cut a weed out of the ground that didn't want to come out very easily. So Grandpa Poe he got the cutter out and he just cut it off. This is most often used in your yard for clipping different things and maybe cutting off weeds that are growing and things like that. And it's very sharp in here, and you must use it with care. Wire stripper. Do you see how that works? This is a specific tool for doing specific things. It is used for stripping the insulation off of a wire. Grandpa Poe used this just a few days back because he was doing a little piece of wiring on his Triumph where a wire had become frayed. And so Grandpa Poe replaced the wire. This is called a nibbler. And it's made like this. Can you see it? Can you see how that works? Grandpa Poe used it, maybe a week or so back, because he had a little piece of metal that he needed to make. So he cut the metal using this tool. It is only used for cutting metal. Gland nut fastener. This tool is used for a very specific purpose, like underneath the sink where you have a fastener to fasten pipes. Grandpa Poe only used this, maybe 2 or 3 months ago because he had a loose gland nut underneath his sink. It's a funny looking thing, isn't it? Air chuck. Isn't that a funny name? Air chuck. It's used to put on the end of an air hose. And you would plug the air hose into here, right here. You would plug it in right there, and then you could push down on this, and it would blow. And it's very helpful to have this, to have one of these if you have compressed air. Grandpa Poe used it just to blow some dirt out of the way, where he wanted something to be very, very clean. Isn't that interesting? See how you push down on this, and the air comes out here. It goes in here, comes out here when you push this down. It's very helpful. Grout cleaner. This is only used for a very specific purpose. In your bathroom, you have tile, and each one of those tile have a seam between them. And those seams sometimes get kind of discolored. Well, this little thing fits right in that seam, right here, right here, right here. Fits in that seam, and you go like this, and it makes it look like it's brand new. It has a very specific purpose. Grandpa Poe used it, some time back, because Grandma Poe said the tile grout looks dirty. So Grandpa Poe used it. Yeah, I used it. It worked pretty good. You could use it too. You have to be a little bit careful. This is a little bit sharp, but not too sharp. Inspection mirror. Now this is a very interesting thing. It's very interesting. What you use this for is if you need to look at something from its back side, you can put this in and turn it this way and look at what's on the opposite side. It's a mirror, and it's very helpful. Grandpa Poe uses this from time to time, and I find it very useful. There are some areas that are hard to get to, and sometimes an inspection mirror is very helpful. And Grandpa Poe used it because he had dropped something on the floor, and it went behind the refrigerator. And Grandpapa could not figure out, I could not figure out where it went. And so I got this, and I put it behind the refrigerator, and I looked around, and there it was on the floor. So then I moved the refrigerator, and I was able to get it. It was very helpful. I'm going to show you a variation of what are called wrenches. Little bitty wrench that comes in a kit. Open end wrench. A smaller open end wrench. A box end wrench. And here, isn't that funny? It is a unique wrench for doing a particular unique job. These wrenches are all used for specific purposes. I'm going to tell you about this funny looking wrench here. It is only used for one purpose. You see how it's curved around here? It's because you have to put it in and put it around the back side of something. And this happens to be to put the nuts on an exhaust system, which I used to reattach an exhaust system on my Triumph. Now, if you were to put the legs on a table, you might use a wrench like this because the legs are fastened to the table using a nut. And you would put this on a nut and you would tighten it to tighten the nut to make the leg stable on the table. Isn't that funny? Stable on the table. It's called an open-end wrench. This is called a box-end wrench. And for certain applications, you put this over top of the nut and you turn it. And it fits very nicely on that nut. And it has two different sizes. This is the small size, and this is the big size. Now, this wrench is kind of a funny wrench. It kind of combines an open-end wrench and a box-end wrench. And they're sometimes sold with kits. And it has all these different sizes. Good mechanics don't use these very much. But if you don't have anything else, it serves a purpose. And you could use it. It's just that most mechanics don't use a combination pressed steel wrench like this. Grandpa Poe has not used one of these for a long time. Grandpa Poe would use something like this. Or like this. Level. Level. These are two different levels. And let's see if you can see this. Grandpa Poe, do you see this little bubble in here? Can you see that? It's probably a little hard to see. But that bubble goes back and forth, and right in the middle are two lines. This is called a level because that's what you use it for. You use it to be sure that whatever you're working on is level. Like the table here, if I look at it, is level. If it were tilted, the bubble would go to this side. If it were tilted this way, the bubble would go to this side. And that tells you whether or not it's level. Now let's say one other thing. What if you wanted to know if something is really straight up and down? You could put this against it, and here's another little bubble in this right here. And so, if you wanted to know if it was straight up and down, then you could put this up against it. And if that bubble was right in the middle, you would know it was straight. Isn't that nice? These have been in use for many hundreds of years. They use the same method of making a determination that something was either level or vertical. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Grandpa's specific use. The other day, this was a while back, but Grandpa was going to put up a lattice that his plants could climb up. And Grandpa wanted to be sure that that lattice was straight up and down, that it wasn't leaning off to the side one way or the other way. It was nice and straight. Grandpa Poe used this level to determine was it straight up and down. When it was, Grandpa Poe took his mallet, which he had showed you before, and he pounded where the lattice went into the ground around the base of the lattice so that it stood up nice and straight. Isn't that nice? Isn't that helpful? Yes. All right. Now, this level is just made in a different way, but it has the little bubble right here in the middle, the same way that this one did. And so you could tell if something was level by going this way, and where is that bubble? And looky there. Look at that. There's another bubble there, so that you can put this against something to see if it's vertical, straight up and down. If the bubble is in the middle, it's straight up and down. If it's gone to one side, then you know it's tilted off to the side, and it's not straight. These are both doing the same thing, but they're a different size. You know what? Grandpa Poe needs a little drink. Let's have a little drink. You could have a little drink too. Very good. Was your drink good? Good for you. Okay, my children and grandchildren, we have gone through everything that was in the toolbox. All of the tools are here, and we talked about each one. Well, I hope it was fun for you. All right, now, Grandpa's going to put these all back in this toolbox for you. Hello, children and grandchildren. Today, Grandpa Poe is going to show you another toolbox full of tools. And we're gonna look at the different uses of those tools. Let's see what's inside. Oh, isn't that pretty? And it's almost full of tools. Cutter. This is a small cutter that is used mainly for just cutting wire. Can you see it? Yes, it's very sharp. Cutter. This is also a cutter for wire. Cutter. Now this is very interesting. Look at this. Here is the cutter portion. Here is the cutter portion, right here. Can you see it? Right here, this little bit. Do you see how it moves? This is very old, very old. This belonged to Grandpa Poe's grandpa from many years back. And it is for cutting really hard stuff. And it only cuts just this little area right here. Do you see it? Grandpa Poe inherited this from his father, and my father inherited it from his father. So it was used by my grandfather. Now, Grandpa Poe actually used this, several days ago, just to cut some wire. Just to cut some wire. That's what I used it for. On an area that worked for our washing machine. This one here, Grandpa Poe used to cut some wire when he was rewiring his Triumph. And he needed to cut some wire and strip the wire. This heavy-duty cutter, Grandpa Poe hasn't used it for some time, but I have used it in the past for cutting if I had to remove a bolt and the bolt would not come out. Grandpa Poe would cut the bolt off. And for that purpose, it is very useful, very useful. And Grandpa Poe has actually had neighbors come over and borrow it because they had to cut a bolt. This is a very simple wire cutter and stripper. You put the wire in here and then you clamp down on it like this, and then you pull on it, and that pulls the insulation off of the wire. That's how it's used. It's very simple, And for small wire, it works very well. Doesn't work very well for great big pieces of wire with insulation on. But for small pieces, it works very nicely. Isn't that nice? This one has dual use. This could be used, or this could be used, or, remember Grandpa Poe showed you this before? This is also a wire stripper. But this is 2-in-1, both a cutter and a stripper. See how that works? Okay, all right. Grandpa Poe forgot something. Remember Grandpa Poe showed you these wrenches and how these wrenches worked? You know, like if you put the leg on a table or something like that. Or this one, this is a wrench, and it's a closed end. It's a box end wrench. Grandpa Poe forgot to show you this. This is very interesting. It's actually a kit. And look at what's in here. Now then, remember Grandpa Poe showed you these and this. Look at this. Just look at this. Look at this. Isn't that a pretty little thing? Now, look at this. Remember Grandpa Poe showed you this before? This is an open-end wrench, and this is open-end. And this is a box end, and look at this. That's a box end. Isn't that, and look at it. Isn't it a nice little wrench? For very small areas, this is what you would use, because this would be maybe too big. And it bends like this, and you would use this to maybe get into a very funny position. And so you could bend this over and use it, or you could use it straight, like this. Isn't that nice? And there is a whole kit full of these wrenches. From a very small one. Can you see that? It's not very big. See? But it's made the same way. Look at this. Look at this. Look at that. It's made the same way. Here is the biggest one in the kit. Now, this is a little hard for Grandpa to do, maybe, but look at how many wrenches are here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 of them in there. Can you see that? And this is a kit, which you could roll this up. See that? You can roll it up, and then it has some Velcro here, and you can put that like that. And here is a nice rolled up kit. Isn't that nice? Look at that. Battery post cleaner. This is a particular tool used for only a particular thing, for cleaning the posts and the terminals on a battery. There is a wire brush in here, in this, see it in there? And there's a wire brush in here. 2 different size holes. And there's a wire brush on the end here, and there's a wire brush on the end here. It is only used to clean battery posts. The way this is used, this wire brush in here, you would put this on the top of the post on the battery and go like this, and it would clean it. This brush you would use on the terminal that fits onto the post, and you would put that in there and you would go like this. And there are 2 different sizes. See, this one's bigger and that's smaller. This one here is smaller and this is bigger. Can you see that? It is a very useful tool, but it's only used for one purpose: to clean a battery post. I've used this to clean battery posts on any one of our cars. Anytime that you have a battery in a car and you need to clean it, clean the posts, this is the tool that you will use. You can buy them at a store, and they're not terribly expensive, but they're very helpful and very useful. Plain wood, used for only planing wood, meaning taking pieces off a piece of wood that you need to shave down. And here, right there, is a cutter which is very sharp, very sharp. You must be very careful with it because it would cut your skin very quickly. You use it like this, and it would shave pieces off to make, let's say it's the bottom of a door, and you want that door to fit tighter. Grandpa Poe used this to shave a very little bit of wood off the bottom of his porch screen door. And you use it like this, where you push it. Now, Grandpa had to do that with his screen door because the screen door was sticking. It was sticking to the bottom where it met the floor, and it was sticking. So Grandpa just used this, and he took the door off, and then he shaved a little bit off the door, just like this. Just like this. Okay, my children and grandchildren, we have gone through everything that was in the toolbox. All of the tools are here, and we talked about each one. Well, I hope it was fun for you. Now, Grandpa's gonna put these all back in this toolbox for you. Didn't we have a nice afternoon? It was fun, wasn't it? And here is a toolbox all full of tools, just for you. To my children and my grandchildren, I love you very much. Well, hello, children and grandchildren. And if you have had some friends over, hello to your friends too. We're going to have a good time this morning. What do you think is in this toolbox? Let's look and see. Let's say that you had written something on a piece of paper. Maybe you've drawn a picture of something on a piece of paper. Like this. It's just very nice paper, and you could draw a picture on there, or you could write on there, or something like that. Okay? How would you do this? And let's say you wanted to put it in a picture frame and maybe put it up on the wall because you had drawn a really pretty picture and you wanted to save it. So you have a picture frame, and Grandpa has one here. Here's a picture frame. It's just a plain picture frame, okay? Now then, but you got to put this piece of paper in this frame. How would you do that? How would you do that? Well, first of all, you can't change the frame, can you? No, because it's made. You went to the store and bought this frame like Grandpa did, and Grandpa put this, which was a certificate that he got many years ago, into the frame. But before Grandpa could put it into the frame, he had to make sure it fit. Right? Yes, that makes sense, doesn't it? Yes. So, what you do is, you get your ruler and you measure the frame with your ruler, and it says that it's 8.5, and that's very typical. Most of these frames this size are 8.5 by 11 inches long, and we have a ruler that measures 8.5, and lengthwise it is 11 inches long. So you then take this piece of paper here and you measure 8.5, and you mark it. You put a mark there. And 11 inches this way. And you put a mark there. Then you get out your scissors and you take this and you cut right down where the mark is. And down this side. Down this side where the mark is. And then you take your frame and you put that there. And it fits into the frame perfectly. And now you can store your picture in your picture frame, like Grandpa did with this certificate he got many years ago, and you can hang it on your wall. If you'd like, you could just give it to me, and I'll put it on my wall. Yes, I'll save it. Yes, because you are my grandchildren, and you're right here, I hope. But if you're a long way away, maybe you have to put it in the mail. Have Mama or Dad put it in the mail and send it to Grandpa. Okay? Now, this is called a linear micrometer, and this is used for measuring very accurate distances. And this is a storage case so that it is always protected, because it is a very, very accurate instrument. Very accurate. So, how does it work? Grandpa will show you. Grandpa will show you. Let's say that you had to measure something. Let's say you wanted to measure from here to here. How would you do that? This is just the tool you would use. Here is a little wheel right here. And do you see what happens when I turn the wheel? See how this goes out here? And it has two places, one up here and one down here, that measures. This measures a big dimension, a big distance. This one, if it is something less than this, then this dial records what that distance is, so that it is so accurate. It is very accurate down to a very small amount. So, if we wanted to measure this, we could put this in here, and we could adjust this in until it just touches the edges. Okay? Very good. And then we read on this side, we read what it says here plus what it says here. And that is the exact width of that. The exact width. Now, I could try this out on you, but we must be very careful because it has really very sharp edges. So we have to be very careful. I would like to measure, how thick is your thumb? How thick? Have you ever wondered, well, how thick is my thumb? Well, we could measure it with this. Give me your hand, put your thumb out. Yes, right, here it is, right here. Then we take this and we go in In. Hold your thumb down like this. Very good. Very good. Now hold it very still. I don't want to pinch you. I don't want to pinch you. We'll go back in. Okay. Now we read that it is 3/4 of an inch plus 0.10. Now, we will record on here thumb. Width. Three quarters plus 0.10. That's exactly what your width of your thumb is. Now, it is time to put this away. We must be very careful because it is a very good instrument and we must store it correctly. Now, here's an interesting little measuring device. Isn't it funny looking? Isn't it? This is something you might carry around in your pocket. And you could measure just this little distance here if you needed to measure it very accurately. But it also has an interesting thing. It has this little thing here that goes up. And what this does is it measures this angle from here and up here. See that? It has two different purposes. One to measure distance and the other to measure an angle. And there isn't much difference between measuring the length of your nose with this and measuring the length of your nose with this. Except this is much more accurate. Oh, just for fun, Grandpa's going to measure your nose with this. All right, come in close. Okay. Now, we know that this is much more accurate than this was. Okay? This measured your nose to be 1.26. Now, we'll record this alongside the other one. Nose, 1.26. Very good. Now then, there is another way to measure things. Here is a funny little thing, but it's very useful. Very useful. It has all of these things. All of these things on it. If you wanted to measure the distance between two things that were very close together, you would use one of these. And this is called a feeler gauge. A feeler gauge. And each one of these is a very small distance. And if you wanted to measure between two things that are very close together, you would simply push this in between the two things until you got one that it just slid in so nicely. If you closed your mouth real tight, like this, what is the distance between your two teeth? Did anybody ever measure that on you? I'll bet your dentist did. If you went to the dentist, he might measure you. And he might use one of these devices to measure that. So, if you would come up here real close. Come up here real close. Now, put your teeth together. Like this. Grandpa will see which one of these will slide between your teeth. Wouldn't that be... Do you think that would be interesting? Do you think that would be interesting? Let's try that out. All right. That won't go in there. This one here will not go in there. Won't slide in. Well, we'll go to one thinner than that. Let's try this one. Well, it almost goes in, but Grandpa has to push really hard to get it to go. So let's go to one thinner than that. Down to this one, the thinnest one here. Now, let's see this. Oh. It slides in very nicely. What distance is that? What do you think that is? Well, let's see if we can read it on here. It says on here, each one of these has a dimension. And it says that this is 0.020. Let's record that. Teeth. Got that recorded. Isn't that an interesting tool to use? Isn't that interesting? And it all folds down and is stored in a little package, just like that. Now let's see. Do you know? I think it's time for Grandpa to have a little sip of something to drink, okay? All right, maybe you'd like to get something to drink too. I have to be careful I don't spill it. Very good. Did you get something to drink too? Good. Okay. You know, it has been a lot of fun doing this for my children and grandchildren, or for friends of them. It's been a lot of fun doing this, and I hope you have enjoyed it, and that you remember it the best you can, because in time you will find that you need to measure things and know how big things are or how little things are, and maybe somebody else says to you, well, how big is that? And you will know that it can be measured, and you can tell them then how big it is, or how small it is, how wide it is, how narrow it is. Now, we have to do things in order, so let us pack up the toolbox and put it away.